Too Sweet Wrestling Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I am late with this one. It is Monday, July 30th, and it is episode 28 of the Too Sweet Wrestling Podcast. Yes, indeed. We're about to jump into a lot of topics. WWE Evolution, who really started the women's revolution. Ciampa, Tommaso Ciampa as NXT Champ, Johnny Gargano, Eddie Edwards, who's playing the character better, and heel Randy Orton is back. So we're about to get right into this. First, we got a little house cleaning to get out of the way. We are on Castbox. Yes, you can find us on Castbox. This will be listed on Castbox as well as YouTube as well. You can find me on YouTube at OMG Corey B. And you can find me on Twitter at OMG Corey B and at 2 Sweet Pod. That's the number 2 Sweet Pod. The Castbox is 2 Sweet Pod as well. So we're about to get into this right now. So first up, we have WWE Evolution. We had the announcement last week on Monday Night Raw that WWE Evolution will be going down the first all-women's pay-per-view for WWE. Not the first all-women's pay-per-view in history, but WWE Evolution, I'm proud of it. I'm very happy for the ladies. This is going to be an excellent thing if they do it right. If it's like an NXT takeover, then I'm with it. If it's like what we're getting right now with the way the ladies are being booked right now, some of these ladies, Sasha and Bayley, look, I can't get with it if it's like that, if they mess around with it. But if we get effort put into this pay-per-view, then it's going to be a good thing. One thing I do not hope they do is rely on nostalgia. Because it's one thing to rely on nostalgia for the Women's Royal Rumble. It's another thing to completely rely on nostalgia for an entire 3-hour pay-per-view. So hopefully what we get out of this is ladies being built up well into the pay-per-view. And it'll be an excellent thing if they do it right. So a byproduct of this pay-per-view and a byproduct that has come of this discussion is the start of the women's revolution. And there are a lot of people that have opinions on it. Many people say that Emma and Paige started it. Many people say that WWE started it with Sasha Banks and the 4 Horsewomen. A lot of opinions on where the women's evolution started, but here's my opinion on where it actually started. Look, you can't say WWE Evolution, you can't say women's revolution without the starter. Gail Kim, in my opinion, started the women's revolution. Because no disrespect to Trish Stratus, no disrespect to Lita, no disrespect to any of those girls, they were awesome. But the tide really turned for women's wrestling when Gail Kim went to TNA. And when Gail Kim got in that feud with Awesome Kong. That was a phenomenal feud. If I'm not mistaken, I think it main evented an Impact one time, but it was a phenomenal feud, and you can see that was when the turn started to happen. Now, it wasn't perfect or anything, but it was the first time that you've seen women being put into that slot, taken as serious wrestlers, not as just some Playboy models. So when Stephanie McMahon said that it was the people that changed those 30-second matches into main events, it was to give divas a chance that changed it. That's where I disagreed. Now, that was an awesome movement. I was a part of it. Awesome movie. Give divas a chance. I thought it was great. But the 30-second matches stopped when Gail Kim and Awesome Kong started tearing it up. Now, WWE didn't have it all together, but you could see that once they saw Gail Kim and Awesome Kong tearing it up, they tried to take the women more seriously. Or at least as seriously as they thought that they could take them. Because what they were doing wasn't serious at all. But you can see the turn starting to happen. So when we talk about the women's revolution, there are a lot of key players in it. And I respect all of them. But who started it was Gail freaking Kim and Awesome Kong. Let's keep the facts straight on that one. So we're moving on. And we're going to move on to Tommaso Ciampa. And this guy is just phenomenal. Just a phenomenal moment we had on NXT last week. Tommaso Ciampa becoming an NXT champion. I gotta tell you, the match was just ridiculous. I mean, it has to go up there And I know it's not at a pay-per-view, it's not an NXT TakeOver. It has to go up there as one of the best NXT matches of all time. Because just the near falls, it was WrestleMania kickouts, for goodness sake. And it was just an awesome match. And the great moment, the great heel moment of the heel celebrating, I like that. Look, I like for heels to stay in character, but when you win the biggest prize, when you become the champion, when you go to the pay window, you have to show emotion, you get to celebrate, you get to raise your hands, you get to smile, in my opinion. And he had a great moment of that, and I thought it was fantastic. As for going forward, Johnny Gargano, and I'm about to get into Johnny Gargano later on in his podcast, he's involved again with Tommaso Ciampa. It's looking like we're going to get a 3-way at TakeOver, and this has just been a great storyline going on for however long now. Just a great feud, and it's looking like Johnny Gargano is about to slip back into the world title scene. We'll see how it all plays out. Honestly, with Tommaso Ciampa having the title, I hope he doesn't lose it anytime soon. Obviously, the storyline dictates that Johnny Gargano eventually overcomes Ciampa, becomes the champion, has the great face moment, but at the same time, NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, we're not even a month out from that. Just like a couple weeks. We're a couple weeks out from, or 2 to 3 weeks out from NXT TakeOver. And I don't want Tommaso Ciampa to have that kind of range where he only has the title for like 3 weeks and then somebody else wins it. I think this has to go on for a long time. Tommaso Ciampa, there's a lot of good matches out there for Ciampa, and I think it really has to go on for a good while with him as champion for it to be legitimate. As for TakeOver, whether it's Gargano versus Ciampa, Ciampa versus Black 2, it's going to be a phenomenal match either way it goes. I'm looking forward to what's next with Tommaso Ciampa, with him coming out with no music, with that NXT title, the heat that this guy will get. He's already getting massive heat. Now he's the champion. He's going to throw it in your face that he's the champion. It's going to be fantastic heat. It's going to turn into a great storyline. Wherever they go with this one, it's going to turn into a great storyline that I cannot wait for. So moving on, we're just talking about Johnny Gargano. And we're going to talk about Johnny Gargano and Eddie Edwards. Who is playing the character better right now? Who's in the best storyline? Who's playing the better character right now? And I've stayed away from this topic because it's such a hard choice. It's neck and neck. Like the storylines are mirroring each other. It's so scary how much the storylines are mirroring each other. It's like step for step. And it's not from the standpoint that WWE is stealing from Impact Wrestling, or Impact Wrestling is stealing for WWE. It's just that the storylines have been fantastically done and they mirror each other so well. So, if I'm choosing one, I'm not going to give you a soft opinion, I'm just going to go with it right now. Who I'm more interested in is Eddie Edwards. For a while, Johnny Gargano barely had the edge on Eddie Edwards. I mean, the feud was going great with Ciampa. I was at a fever pitch, and I was interested in that storyline. I still am interested in that storyline. But ever since Gargano lost to Ciampa at the most recent TakeOver, it seems like he's lost a tad bit of steam as we head into this possible 3-way or this possible one-on-one match with Ciampa. Who knows how they play it out. Looking at Eddie Edwards, it looks as if Eddie Edwards is on the upswing with his storyline. Eddie Edwards is going from Sami Callihan and Tommy Dreamer, and now he feels like his character never really hit a plateau. You were always waiting for that moment to happen where Eddie Edwards was at the top of the card, and we finally got it last week on Impact Wrestling, and it feels as if Eddie Edwards is on the upswing heading toward the title. So I'm very interested in what they have going on with Eddie Edwards at this point. It's like, what is next with this guy? He was in the Sami Callihan feud, and Tommy Dreamer was in that as well. This is his first time coming out of those feuds and coming into something different. So he hasn't had a chance where he cooled off. So that's why I'm rolling with Eddie Edwards in this scenario, because it looks like he's on the upswing, and if he gets that title, goodness, What do we have next? There's endless opportunities that he has next. I think if Johnny Gargano wins the title, it will be interesting. It will be fun to see him have that overcoming moment eventually on Ciampa, even though I don't want it to come this month or in August. It'll be fun to see him regain the title, but you have to look at what's next for it. What's next for Johnny Gargano? When I look at what's next for Johnny Gargano as a face, I don't really see the opportunities that I see with Eddie Edwards as a heel. I mean, when you can talk about the list of guys that could come against Eddie Edwards, get your Johnny impacts, that'll make it for a nice feud, for a great feud. When it comes to Johnny Gargano, look, there'll always be feuds out there with NXT, but with Gargano, it will always feel like the feud is Tommaso Ciampa. So whenever it is that he overcomes Ciampa, it kind of feel like a letdown once he goes into another feud. It'll still be, obviously, like I said, great matches out there, but I always feel like Tommaso Ciampa is the feud and everything else is kind of below that. With Eddie Edwards, if he captures that title, it won't feel like Sami Callihan is the feud. It'll feel like his character will be refreshed, because there are many other feuds that you can look at. You can say that, okay, this is a phenomenal feud. It would be better than Sami Callihan. I'm feeling it more. As for the characters being played, I mean, Eddie Edwards is just in a all-time craziness. Like, the passing of the torch from Tommy Dreamer to Eddie Edwards was phenomenal, because Eddie Edwards is just playing his character phenomenally right now. He's in that situation. He's playing it great. Gargano is playing it great as well, but like I said, it feels like he's lost a wee bit of steam. Maybe he gets it back when he wins the title. We'll see, and we'll come back to this once again once they both capture the title. Hopefully they both capture the title. That'll be phenomenal. But at the moment, I will take Eddie Edwards right now. I think it's more interesting at the moment. So moving on, we have Randy Orton. And in our last topic of the day, we have Randy Orton. And heel Randy Orton is back, baby. Yeah, I love it. I've been asking for this heel Randy Orton to come back because, man, look, he's just not the same if he's playing a face. Randy Orton, heel came back. He's been destroying Jeff Hardy left and right, and I love every bit of it. And why I say that heel Randy Orton is best is because Randy Orton as a face was just strange. He would do heelish maneuvers, we do heelish things, and then as a face would turn around and play to the crowd. Before his RKO, he just stomp the mat or hit the mat with his fist and try to play to the crowd and get cheers. And it's just a strange dynamic. He very much reminds me of Ric Flair as a face. Like, obviously, when we got to the end of Ric Flair's career, the crowd just wanted to cheer him because we love Ric Flair. But when he would have these slight face turns, it would be weird. Like, I remember one time when he was a face when, like, him and Sting teamed up at Clash of the Champions. And it was at the time to where Sting would always take these tag matches with Ric Flair. Then the Horseman would come out and jump him. It'll be a double turn. It'll be a turn on him. And everybody at the Clash of the Champions, I cannot remember the year, but I remember this very well. I was waiting for the turn for Ric Flair to beat down Sting, and it never happened. And it was like, man, that is strange. Looking at Ric Flair team with Sting, and Sting didn't get beat down. Just Ric Flair as a face. It just doesn't work. Ric Flair is the quintessential heel. He was born to be a heel, and he just fit well in that position. And that's kind of like what we have with Randy Orton. Obviously, he's not Ric freaking Flair, but Randy Orton was just meant to be a heel because he had a decent enough run when he was young babyface Randy Orton, when he was face or whatnot, but the time Randy Orton, what I love best, was the Randy Orton that punted Vince McMahon's head. That was like when Orton was at his apex, no pun intended. That was when he was at his apex. And he was interesting until he lost to Triple H at WrestleMania in the main event. But that's another story for another day. Randy Orton is a heel. I love him. He's back. I'm interested to see where this all goes. Obviously, he has something going on with Jeff Hardy. it's looking like he may have something going on with Shinsuke Nakamura as well, with Nakamura having that promo on him on the most recent episode of SmackDown. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing what's next for Randy Orton. If they keep him in this heel character, they build him up, he becomes the U.S. champion. Look, we have a world title contestant on our hands if they build it up just right. So I'm very much looking forward to see how it goes on. I'm very much excited for heel Randy Orton to be back because I find him much interesting as a heel. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. We are done. This episode of 28 of the Too Sweet Podcast is over. Let me know, YouTube, Twitter, what you think. What's your opinions on Gargano, Edwards, Ciampa, the WWE Evolution, heel Randy Orton, DMs, Twitter, whatever you have. Let me know. Comments, if you want to jump down in the comments, I'll jump down in the comments with you. Let me know.